prepared, but I will let you know who has a better score at the end of the night. I'm going to borrow his, I think.
Now, one of the big questions that both sides have been asking the potential jurors is, do you think Alexis Murphy is dead? And I am joined by a big Wahoo fan right now. Tyler, you said UVA is your favorite team. Are you planning on going to the game tomorrow? Dan, negotiators with the SWAT team are speaking to the suspect in that building, urging him to come out. Now, these tickets, the most expensive out of all of the regional tournaments, but all of the UVA fans I spoke to say taking the plunge and buying the tickets, well worth it.
That's not bad. Yeah.
It started off real bad.
And it started in the basement of Little John's Deli here on the corner. Now, we were going to try to show you where the fire started. You can still see a big hole in the building. They actually have a smoke and cleanup crew with a van on the scene. They're blocking our shot right now, but there you can see it. Welcome back. We've just gotten word that Ken Cuccinelli is about to take the stage and make his concession speech. Several trees along the residential road toppled over. This one just barely missing this house. Police have been in constant communication with this man throughout this 7-hour standoff. They've even delivered cigarettes. Behind me, that is the president's motorcade arriving here at the tarmac at Cho Airport. I'm going to step out of the way so you can get a better view. Alexis Murphy's mother took the stand right after the verdict was announced, talking about how Alexis would have been a senior this year at Nelson County High School, breaking down into tears as she talked about how she would have graduated this May. That's when things got very emotional in the courtroom. What did they say? Did they say anything about Alexis and how they'll be remembering her? And it has been a record-breaking year for the UVA men's basketball team, and some of their biggest fans are former players. I sat down with a few standouts from teams who played in the Elite Eight and Final Four to hear what they have to say about this season and this team. As the Virginia men's basketball team cut down the nets in Greensboro after stunning Duke in the ACC championship game last Sunday, fans and former players were on hand to soak in the glory.
That was the greatest moment in Virginia basketball history.
And Barry Parkhill knows UVA history. He played for the Hoos in the 70s and was the second player in school history to have his jersey number retired. He says there's something special about this team.
I am more into this team, I think, than I've ever been in any team. I might be their biggest fan. I know a lot of people would disagree with that or argue, but it's so great rooting for this group of people.
Former standout Norman Nolan says this team's unselfish mentality is what makes them great.
They're extremely disciplined. They bought into the system. It took them a while early this year to really find their identity, but once they found their identity, you can tell they enjoy being around each other. You know, I look at the bench through the course of the game, all the guys are into it, you know, cheering on the guys on the floor. You can tell they have fun off the court. They're always smiling. You can see it's a complete team effort.
Nolan's 95 team advanced to the Elite Eight of the NCAA tournament. The Cavaliers' lone Final Four appearance took place 11 years earlier, led by Jimmy Miller, who says he's thrilled to witness the resurgence of the program.
That's what's really neat from a old guy used to play, seeing the excitement of all the people in the community, and not only here in Charlottesville, but I'm hearing from people all over the country who are really excited about this team.
That excitement extends overseas. Former UVA great Travis Watson is playing professionally in Switzerland, but has been keeping up with the Hoos, watching games online.
It definitely makes me proud, you know, to be orange and blue. You know, especially being a former player, especially living overseas. So, you know, the university is well known around the world, and I'm just glad that they're able to represent.
High hopes for these Hoos, but also some advice from players who've been in their shoes.
Enjoy the moment. You know, not many people, not many teams get the opportunity that they have to be in this situation.
My advice would just be, you know, stay focused on the prize and not the hype.
Take it one game at a time. I know I'm sounding like a coach, but enjoy it as best you can because you're not going to play forever.
And if you'd like to hear more from my interviews, just head over to our web channel at newsplex.com. There you'll find the entire conversation and each of those guys' bracket picks for the tournament.
Individual out in the woods here, he was on his tractor going over to do some plowing, and he disappeared and just hasn't come back.
That was the scenario laid out for this search and rescue training mission in Fluvanna County. This helicopter acting as the eye in the sky.
We're going to go out and try to visually find him.
Is this open? Yep. The whole time? I went along for the ride.
And I'll need you to grab the other seatbelt on that side.
To see what the search looks like from hundreds of feet in the air.
Once you get up above the tree line and all, you get a whole lot different vision of what's happening. So that's what we're trying to do.
Back on the ground, dozens of volunteers called ground pounders fanned out on foot to help search.
On this search, we're trying to bring multiple jurisdictions together so we're able to practice and learn what each one can bring to the table in case we have an actual search.
Officers with Fluvanna, Greene, and Albemarle County Sheriff's Office pooling resources and all working together.
We want to be in a position that if that does happen, hopefully we'll be able to locate them quickly and that they can return safely.
This simulated search will continue through the night and end Saturday afternoon. In Fluvanna County, Rachel Ryan, 19 News Nightcast. We've documented the complaints coming from inside the women's prison in Fluvanna County, but for the first time we hear from an inmate who says her 12-year prison sentence cost her her life.
It's terrible. They don't know how to take care of women. There has been so many women died there.
Donna Kidd spent nearly a decade in prison at the Fluvanna Correctional Center for women on fraud and larceny charges. The 44-year-old went in with hepatitis C and was released earlier this month through medical clemency. She suffers from cirrhosis of the liver and her kidneys have begun to shut down. Her doctors at UVA say she only has weeks to live, and her family blames the poor health care at the prison.
They're in there paying for their mistakes, but they shouldn't have to pay with their life. And that's what I feel like, you know, they made her do. If she had gotten, you know, the proper treatment, she wouldn't be where she is right now.
Prison officials and the medical staff at FCCW are facing a lawsuit filed on behalf of 5 inmates last summer, claiming cruel and unusual punishment. Kidd isn't part of the lawsuit, but says the suffering is rampant. She says she was ignored by nurses and doctors, not given the correct medicines, and left in isolation for days at a time by indifferent guards.
He says, you ain't got but 30 days to live, and we don't want you around other people. So I said, what, I'm supposed to spend Thanksgiving Day alone in that closet and no one to talk to?
The Department of Corrections uses a for-profit company called Corizon Correctional Healthcare to provide medical services to inmates at Fluvanna and several other prisons in Virginia.
What is it with these doctors? Why don't they want to give them the treatment? Or is it the state because they don't want to pay for it? You know, it just, I don't understand it because they're still human beings.
Officials with Corizon and the prison declined our request for an interview.
There's people dying, you know, they need help.
The attorneys with the Legal Aid Justice Center who filed the lawsuit are working to make it a class action suit. They don't want money, just adequate care for all inmates. A trial date has been set for next September. In the Newsplex, Rachel Ryan, 19 News Nightcast. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Rachel Ryan. Dan has the night off. We'll get to those stories in a moment, but first, here's Brantley with the Fast Cast. All right, thanks, Brantley. The murder trial for Randy Taylor began in Nelson County with jury selection. It wasn't easy finding 12 people who hadn't heard of the case of missing teen Alexis Murphy. Now, Randy Taylor was in court for today's proceedings. He entered his official plea of not guilty on the first-degree murder charge. Opening arguments are scheduled to begin tomorrow morning. CBS 19 will be inside the courtroom every day during the trial, bringing you the latest information on air. And for the latest online, just head to newsplex.com. TSA agents stopped a North Carolina man who was trying to get through airport security with a loaded gun at Cho. According to investigators, it happened last night. The man was stopped by a baggage screener when they found a .38 caliber handgun in the man's carry-on bag. He wasn't arrested, but was cited on a local weapons charge. The TSA says passengers can carry guns in their checked bags if they're properly packed and declared to the airline. Some Charlottesville school students will get to go to school a little later, and some others will have to go a little earlier. The Charlottesville School Board voted unanimously to change school start times. Elementary students will start a half-hour earlier, and grades 5 through 8 will start a half-hour later. Research shows more sleep may help adolescents be more alert and achieve more academic success, and that's what led to this decision. The schedule changes will not change the school's budget. The bus drivers will follow this new schedule when school starts this August. UVA is under investigation for possible violations of federal law over the handling of sexual violence and harassment complaints. The U.S. Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights listed 55 schools under investigation for Title IX violations, including UVA. The list is part of the Obama administration's efforts to bring more transparency and protection for students from sexual assault. We posted all of those schools under investigation on our web channel at newsplex.com. UVA had this to say about the investigation, quote, "The university has been working with the OCR since the summer of 2011 on its review of our policies and systems in the area of Title IX sexual misconduct. The university has worked to provide OCR any information needed and will continue to do so." A terrifying experience for a UVA student as a bullet from an AK-47 went flying through her apartment. Now she's speaking out about what happened. On April 21st, Madison Whitmore and her boyfriend were at his apartment. That's when, according to police, 2 UVA fourth years living across the hall accidentally fired an AK-47 rifle inside their apartment. The bullet went through both apartment doors, a bike, and came to rest in a wall, narrowly missing Madison. The 2 male students were charged with a misdemeanor of reckless handling of a firearm, but those charges were dismissed. They faced a university judiciary hearing today, but a UVA spokesperson could not comment on the incident. The students did not respond to requests for comment. Now an update on that huge train derailment and fire on the banks of the James River in downtown Lynchburg. Today, the State Department of Environmental Quality says between 20 and 25,000 gallons of crude oil spilled when 13 cars derailed. An investigator says the train was going 24 miles an hour under the speed limit at the time of the crash. Environmental scientists are now saying erosion around the tracks may have caused that derailment. And in Richmond today, Governor McAuliffe vowed to get to the bottom of it. The National Transportation Safety Board is investigating. A new class is catering to kids who are sometimes left out of group sports. ATA Martial Arts has created a class just for kids on the autism spectrum. In this class, parents are allowed on the mat to help keep their kids on track. And once the kids get comfortable, the goal is eventually integrating them into the regular martial arts classes. Parents say it's a good way to get their kids to work on their social skills and get some exercise on their own terms. In the last few years, ATA has had 3 students on the autism spectrum earn their black belts. Well, Virginia and Maryland have been playing each other in men's basketball for more than a century now, and that's not going to change, despite the Terps moving to the Big Ten next year. Wahoo Fox 27's Damon Dillman joins us now with a look ahead to sports. Say it ain't so, Damon.
Yeah, well.
All right, thanks, Damon. Dozens gather outside John Paul Jones Arena, not for the circus that's in town, but to fight for a cause. Details on what protesters are hoping to put a stop to and the message they're hoping to send out. Plus, we head to Birdwood for an annual golf tournament for Alzheimer's research. We'll tell you how much the Bill Howard tourney has raised.